the World Cup has only just begun. A few matches have already been played. Some teams have impressed. Some have disappointed. But now we arrive at what could be the biggest group stage clash we've seen so far. Brazil against Morocco. Five-time world champions against one of the fastest-rising football nations on the planet. And the reason this match feels so important isn't simply because of the names involved. It's because for the first time in this tournament, Brazil are about to face a team that genuinely believes it can beat them, not survive, not compete, beat them. And that's what makes this game fascinating. Because while much of the football world still automatically places Brazil among the favorites whenever a World Cup begins, this version of Brazil arrives under very different circumstances. There is a new manager. There are new expectations. And perhaps for the first time in years, there are genuine questions. Questions that ESPN FC's panel spent a lot of time discussing ahead of this match. And almost all those questions lead back to one man, Carlo Ancelotti. Before a ball is kicked, before any tactical battle unfolds, before Vinicius Jr. runs at defenders or Achraf Hakimi charges down the right flank, the biggest story surrounding Brazil is their manager. Because Carlo Ancelotti might have taken on one of the most difficult jobs in world football. Not because Brazil lacked talent. Far from it. Brazil never lacked talent. The challenge is restoring Brazil to what people believe Brazil should be. For decades, Brazil have been judged by impossible standards. They aren't compared to other nations. They're compared to Pelé, to Ronaldo, to Ronaldinho, to Rivaldo, to the teams that won 5 World Cups. And that pressure never disappears. Speaking on ESPN FC, one of the panelists pointed out that Brazil haven't won the World Cup for a long time by their standards. And despite regularly producing world-class players, something has always gone wrong. Perhaps the best example came in Qatar. Many observers believe Brazil were actually the strongest team at the tournament. Some analysts even argued they looked stronger than eventual champions Argentina. But one mistake against Croatia changed everything. A late goal, a penalty shootout, a flight home. That's the cruelty of World Cup football. And that's the memory Carlo Ancelotti is now trying to erase. What's interesting is that several ESPN FC analysts suggested something unusual. Brazil might actually benefit from having less pressure this time around. Think about that for a moment. For most countries, being considered favorites is a good thing. For Brazil, it can become a burden. Every tournament begins with expectations of glory. Every draw feels like a disappointment. Every defeat feels like a national crisis. But this World Cup feels different. Much of the conversation has been focused on Argentina, on France, on Spain, on other contenders. Meanwhile, Brazil have quietly slipped slightly under the radar. And according to the ESPN FC discussion, that may be exactly what Ancelotti wants. Because the Italian manager has built his career on creating calm. Whether at AC Milan, Chelsea, Bayern Munich, Paris Saint-Germain, or Real Madrid, players consistently describe the same thing. Trust, confidence, control. Ancelotti rarely creates chaos. He removes it. And perhaps that's exactly what Brazil need. Because if there is one thing nobody doubts, it is the quality of this squad. Vinicius Jr., Rafinha, Casemiro, Marquinhos. Listen, the talent remains extraordinary. The challenge is turning individual quality into a team capable of winning 7 matches and lifting football's biggest prize. But before anyone starts talking about finals, there is a much more immediate problem. Morocco. And this is where things become really interesting. Because Morocco are not arriving as underdogs in the traditional sense. They arrive with genuine belief. The football world saw what Morocco became over the last few years. They stopped being a team that occasionally produced surprises. They became a team that expects to compete with football's elite. ESPN FC's panel highlighted exactly that point. Morocco are now considered one of the powerhouses of African football. A team packed with technical quality, physical intensity, and tactical discipline. In other words, exactly the kind of opponent Brazil would rather avoid early in the tournament. Because Morocco do something many teams struggle to do. They make life uncomfortable. They disrupt rhythm. They close space. They challenge every duel. And they force opponents into battles. That's why this matchup feels more like a knockout game than a group stage fixture. It's a clash of football cultures. Brazil traditionally represents creativity, flair, and freedom. Morocco represents structure, intensity, and collective organization. Neither approach is better. But when those two styles collide, the result is usually fascinating. And that leads us to the tactical battle. If Brazil are going to win, they need space. Vinicius becomes dangerous when defenders are isolated. Brazil's attacking players thrive when transitions open up, when games become stretched, when moments become chaotic. Morocco will try to prevent exactly that. Expect compact defensive lines. Expect physical challenges. Expect constant pressure around the ball. And expect Morocco to test Brazil's patience, because frustration could become one of the biggest factors in this match. The longer Morocco stay level, the more belief they gain. The more belief they gain, the more pressure shifts toward Brazil. And World Cups have a habit of punishing teams that begin feeling the weight of expectation. Still, despite all of Morocco's strengths, ESPN FC's panel reached a fairly consistent conclusion. Brazil remain favorites. Not overwhelming favorites, but favorites. The reasoning was simple: depth, experience, and individual quality. Morocco may have one of the most organized teams in the tournament, but Brazil possessed players capable of changing a match in a single moment. A dribble, a pass, a shot from distance, a set piece. At this level, those moments matter, especially in games where chances are limited. And that's why my prediction is slightly different from what many people might expect. I don't think this will be a comfortable Brazilian victory. I don't think Brazil simply turn up and dominate. I think Morocco cause serious problems. I think they make Brazil work for every opportunity. And I think there will be periods where Morocco look like the better team. But when matches become tight, quality usually decides them. And Brazil still have more of it. So my prediction? Brazil 2. Morocco 1. A difficult night. A tense night. Possibly Brazil's toughest group stage test. But ultimately, I think Carlo Ancelotti begins his World Cup journey with a victory. The bigger question is what comes next. Because if Brazil pass this test, the rest of the football world may start paying attention. And if they do, the team many people stopped talking about could suddenly become one of the most dangerous teams in the tournament. Before we go, let me know your prediction in the comments. Does Morocco have what it takes to shock Brazil? Or are we about to see the beginning of a serious Brazilian World Cup campaign? The World Cup is only getting started, and Brazil's first real test has finally arrived.